This is your full body 15-minute resistance training workout. We're gonna do a warm up with some active mobility. So hug the knees to your chest 5 times each. If you can pause and squeeze at the top, that's great. If you need to hold on to something to brace yourself, go right ahead. Let's do some hip openers and closers to get that hip mobility going. About 5 on each side. Again, if you need to use a dowel for balance, go ahead and do so. Otherwise, this is great for balance training and mobility and sort of just getting your body temperature a little higher for your warm up. Next, we're going to move into the world's greatest stretch. Elbow down to the ground if you can. See if you can rock back and forth a little bit just to get that knee and that ankle lubed up. And don't forget to breathe. When you inhale, try to focus on expanding your rib cage 360 degrees. Make sure you do both sides. Kind of rock back and forth, get that knee and ankle mobility on both sides. Don't forget to breathe. We're going to do 5 on each side. This one, have a soft bend in your knee. Take the opposite hand to the opposite ankle. Grab the outer part of your ankle. And if you can get that other arm pointed directly up at the ceiling, we're twisting and wringing out some of the organs. The theme of today's full body is a rotational resistance training. Rotational meaning we're gonna be crossing over the midline with our movements. Get in a good quad stretch. Press that pelvis forward to deepen the stretch. 5 on each side. Next, we're going to do some glute isolation movements as part of our warm-up. So what you want to do is get that working leg back at a 45-degree angle. Your toe should be pointed just slightly out. If you can squeeze and pause for a second at the top and then come back slowly, that's going to be ideal. We'll do 20 on each side. And you're going to feel both legs, both glutes working. Make sure to keep your core in tight so belly button is held in. Your core is engaged. And don't forget to breathe. Squeeze, pause at the top. Come down slowly. Your leg is going back at a 45-degree angle. And toe points ever so slightly out. 20 more on the other side. This is the last movement of the warm-up. It's a lateral walk to wake up your glutes, particularly your glute medius, which a lot of us tend to have a weak glute medius, partially because we're sitting on them all day. The glute medius is responsible for rotating that leg and that knee sort of outwards so that your knees don't cave in during your exercises or during walking or jogging. So with the lateral walk, what you want to do is push off the ground from your back leg while leading with the front leg. Your knees should be driving out against the band. You can rest like I'm resting in between each set. And make sure you keep your torso straight without rocking side to side. Incorporating lateral movements into our workouts are just as important as the front and back movement, as well as rotational movements, which we will be focused on as our theme today. Our first movement is a lower body push movement. It's a curtsy lunge. We're going to do 2 sets of each movement. So you want to make sure that front knee and foot are tracking or pointing in the same direction. Your back leg is just gonna go at an angle behind the front leg as if you're doing a curtsy. Keep most of the weight on the front leg, just using your back leg to sort of balance. What I'm doing is adding in pulses here to increase the time under tension. I did 8 reps and then 5 reps with the pulses. If you can do 12 of these and they don't feel that difficult, you need to grab a heavier weight. So 8 single reps plus 5 more reps where you're pulsing at the bottom. Make sure your knee and toe are tracking in the same direction. When you come up, make sure your hips reach full extension. So you want to squeeze that glute at the top. After a rest, move on to your second set of the curtsy lunges. I've grabbed a heavier weight. These power blocks are great. They can adjust anywhere from 6 pounds up to 24 pounds. I've gradually worked up to 24 pounds on each side. A general rule of thumb is you should be able to do heavy enough weight to get you 10 reps that feel an 8 out of 10 difficulty. That way we're building the muscle and strengthening it. And make sure you do your other side. Reminder for knee and toe to track in the same direction. You're driving up from your heel, spreading your toes apart. If you need to wear shoes, go ahead and wear shoes. I've recently started working out with bare feet just to strengthen the muscles and bones in my foot, and because I'm able to spread out my toes. Make sure you're coordinating your breath. In the theme of our rotational resistance training session, this is a single leg deadlift with slight rotation. And the reason why we're doing this is because it's very practical in everyday life for you to be bending over and sort of rotating the torso and the pelvis. I realize this move might take practice for most of us. The most important thing is to keep a neutral spine, keep your lats locked in. What you're gonna do is hinge. So you're hinging your hips back and you're using your glutes and your hamstrings to pull yourself up. We're doing our best not to use our lower back to pull ourselves up. So what we're doing on the way up is we're squeezing from our glutes and our hamstrings and bringing that pelvis from the back hinge position. We're pressing our pelvis forward. Keep a neutral spine. You're just going to get a slight twist in your torso as well as a rotation in your hips. That opposite hand is going to go to the inside of the opposite foot. Keep a neutral spine. Keep your core engaged. Hips are hinging back and forward. Practice if you need to. Here's our second set using a heavier weight. Once you practice the movement and you feel comfortable and your body learns the movement, you can progress to heavier weight. Again, you should be using a weight that allows you to do no more than 12 to 15 reps. That's the ideal range we want for building muscle and making it strong for us ladies. So if you can do 15 without difficulty, you need to get a heavier weight. But definitely go ahead and practice the movements first with body weight only. So again, keep a neutral spine. That opposite hand is coming to the opposite foot. just the inside of the foot. It does not have to be an aggressive twist. Your core is engaged, using your glutes and your hamstrings to pull your pelvis forward. Squeeze and lock out at the top. Keep a neutral neck, and don't forget to breathe. Now that we've completed our lower body push and pull sequence, we're moving on to a combined upper body push-pull sequence. This is a push-up into a row. If you need to, you can do a push-up from your knees. Spread those feet a little wider than shoulder width, just so you have a good brace for when you do your row. You want to pay attention to your hips to make sure they're not rotating from side to side. Keep your core in very tight and make sure your hips stay close to your hips face the floor. On that row, you're going to squeeze your shoulder blades and squeeze your scapula together and just get a slight pause and squeeze at the top. We want to take our arms as much out of the equation. This is what it looks like from the side. So you're getting your upper body push and pull all in one movement. Keep the core engaged, keep it ultra tight. When you do that lat row, if you can squeeze and pause at the top to get that extra squeeze out of your lats. Belly button is in, spine is neutral. Don't forget to breathe. Hips should not rock. Your hips should be square, facing the floor. All right, we're finishing with a couple of core exercises. This is a plank. So you're planking from a extended arm position, and you're bringing that opposite knee to the outside of the opposite elbow. If you can really get that knee across your body, think of getting it to the outside of your opposite elbow. Keep a neutral spine. Your core should be engaged. And if you can get a slight pause at the top, that'll help with the movement. We're on to our second set. Make sure you rest in between. We're gonna do 10 on each side. All right, last movement in our total body workout for today are dead bugs. Make sure you press your lower back hard into the ground. So I'm putting my hand here to make sure my hand cannot slide into a space between my lower back and the ground. So your lower back is pressed hard into the ground the entire time. Your knee is driving into that ball. And that's going to help you force that lower back to stay flush with the ground. Don't forget to breathe. If you need a rest in between sides, go ahead and do that. This is great for strengthening your abs and to sort of assist with that lower back pain that is pretty common in a lot of us. We're doing 10 on each side. Make sure you do 2 sets of these with a rest in between. Great job. You're almost done with your 15-minute full body at home resistance training.